Hello, everybody. How you doing? Welcome aboard our 1947 PCC model trolley, built by the St. Louis Trolley Car Company, St. Louis, Missouri. This was the most popular and most numerous trolley car model ever built. They're still running these in various parts of the United States and the world. SEPTA sold off dozens of these to San Francisco, where they're carrying colors from other cities that also ran these, but most of them are Philadelphia cars. This car is running in everyday service on Girard Avenue by the zoo in a restoration effort to restore that line cheaply using existing equipment. We're here in Darby Borough. The historic Darby Borough walk is right there. We got installed with the help of the SEPTA, the Darby Historical Commission, and others. I highly recommend you go walk and see that. Today, the firehouse is open today for tours. You can see their antique pumpers. They're right up there beyond the check cash service there. Please go and see them. There's also some food being served in the restaurant you guys got on there. And there's other things. There's a tour over at Yeadon Cemetery after the final one of the trolley. We're going to make a quick trip over to the Elmwood Car Barn and then come back, and then we're going to take a longer ride from the same place, and we're going to go all the way into Philadelphia to the Woodland Cemetery on Woodland Avenue. You're riding on the number 11 trolley line, which is SEPTA's oldest surviving trolley line. It literally goes from the era of horse-drawn trolleys. Trolleys were driven by horses. Those days, this line was built in 8. Huh? Oh, they wanted to ride?
Where'd you get that paper at, sir?
Hold on just a second.
In the building where this starts at.
Eye out for anybody that looks like it. Unlike a regular. The number 11 line was built in 1858 to the edge of Darby, the Bluebell Tavern. The Bluebell Tavern was a hotel, and there was a larger hotel built next to it. It was later torn down, the old, newer version. And it's the oldest surviving intact trolley station in America. In essence, still on an active trolley line. And I'm the caretaker, and we're going to be passing in a few minutes. Here, we're crossing the last main line crossing of a trolley to a mainline train left in the United States. There used to be tens of thousands of them. This is the very last one that exists anywhere. Any remaining crossings are overpasses or underpasses, with the exception of one new one in Tampa, where a historic trolley line was built that crosses an Amtrak branch into their station. Main Street, Darby, is actually the remnant of a Indian trading trail and warpath, the Great Meekwas Path. That's why Main Street makes this turn, and it makes another turn. The later Kings Highway version, laid out by William Penn, was coming down Woodland Avenue, used the old wagon road version of the Indian Trail, which is slightly different than the Indian Trail, and then the Chester Pike was still the Kings Highway, following what was called the old Swedes Path, that literally went all the way down to Delaware and all the way near to Lewes, Delaware. So there's quite a lot of history on this Main Street, and even its angle here. Now the Native American Trail, the Susquehannocks Trail, the Meekwas Path, the Meekwas being the Dutch name for the Susquehannocks, who lived out near Columbia, PA, and Safe Harbor Dam actually, would have gone on the hillside. You see, we're coming down, and the wagon road version would have gone lower and around the hill. The native trail likes steeper hills to drop down to creeks because they can look around and make sure they're not going to be attacked. So you see the hills up there, but by the time it's converted to a wagon road, they wanted to go around, and by the time the horse cars came, they kind of lowered it a little bit more to go through here. We're We're coming up to the Bluebell Tavern and Governor Prince's, Swedish Governor Prince mill. The Swedish governor in 1643, years before the Quakers arrived, established his new, well, he was actually the second governor of this new Swedish establishment that was along the Delaware River on both sides and just came a few miles in. This would have been the edge of wilderness of Native American hunting grounds. The Susquehannocks had pushed back the Lenape to New Jersey that originally occupied this area. You don't hear about that because we get our history through the Quaker historians, and they didn't talk about that very much, about Warpass, and they talk about the Lenape, who were the original Native American in this area here. But they had been pushed back by the Susquehannocks, so the Susquehannocks could trade directly with the Dutch, and then the Swedes, as the Swedes started building forts on the Delaware, on the Schuylkill in Delaware, to cut off the Dutch trade to New York for the beaver pelts, the international beaver pelt trade. Beaver pelts being able to repel water through their from rain. This is the Bluebell Tavern. This is the oldest historic tavern in the city of Philadelphia. I was originally the caretaker until I was flooded out 2 years ago. There's a new caretaker, but they didn't open it for us today. We're trying to get them to open it for us next year and other times. This is the oldest pub tavern in the city of Philadelphia. 5 soldiers died in a battle here inside. There were 28 Americans holed up here. One of them was foolish enough to take a shot at the thousands of British going by on the way down the King's Highway as they would be marching up and down where they occupied Philadelphia. And they were stormed and begged. 5 of them were bayoneted on the steps. The rest were taken prisoner. We know this from more than one source, but one account was a pension hearing for a gentleman who was captured here and told the account of what happened. General Washington stayed here multiple times on the Great Road to the north and the south. It was one of his favorite taverns. He could get himself composed, get into his better clothes, wash up, and then go into Philadelphia to accept the Continental Congress. Later he came here as president. This is the Phelps Napkin Factory, the soap factory, very famous at one time. And we're going under the Pennsylvania Railroad Bridge of the Amtrak main line. On the way back, I'm going to show you something really interesting on there. This was the original high-speed line in America as early as 1902. We had steam engines that went as fast as 120 miles an hour, would operate at speeds of over 100 miles an hour here. We're now coming up on Island Road here, and we're going to enter the Elmwood Car Barn. This is the last. It's a modern car barn, but it's the last of the trolley car barns. There are no buses based here at all. There's one other car barn in the city that has 2 trolley lines in an old trolley car barn that's been converted to bus. But literally 100 trolleys live here. A very, very rare thing in America these days. At one time, every American city had streetcars. All cities were built by railroads and streetcars before that canals and ports. But it was really the streetcars that allowed the dense development to go out into north, south, and west Philadelphia, out into Delaware County, and you could literally where the lines went is where the development went. And this is a holdover. It's a new car barn from when these trolleys were built new, the Kawasaki's in 1981. And to see 100 streetcars here at any one time is rare. We're going to have a rare opportunity too. We're not going to just turn around, I believe. Are we going through again? Yes. We're going to go inside the car barn on a trolley here. This is the route that trolleys take when they come out of service and they come in to be cleaned, inspected, and any minor repairs made. You see the trolleys pull right on in. We're going to pull in on track 2 here and go right on through that section of this servicing car barn. Heavy repairs are done at another car barn, the Woodland Car Shop on Woodland Avenue that we passed in the other tour. That modern shop is on the site of the oldest continuous trolley car barn operation in the country today. What's great about the trolley cars here is that these jobs, running them, servicing them, are in Philadelphia. They're in these communities. You can't outsource this stuff. It's really something. Trolleys take more infrastructure, the rails, the stations, the overhead, different things, but they return a roughly, and this is give or take, a doubling of ridership. People know where the cars go, they're used to them, they're traditional, and they're larger, they're a little more comfortable, even when they have bus seats put in them, as this was modernized with bus seats, but it retains its old charm. And then the newer cars have such a much bigger feel in them than buses that if the ridership is roughly, there was a station here on Pascal, one of the oldest neighborhoods in Philadelphia that was developed as early as 1810 out of the Roosevelt Tavern as headquarters for the developer and the family. Here you have an old work car, very old car, and then one of these cars painted orange with its roof cut out such that they can reach up and fix the wires. And those two work cars may be scheduled to be removed from service. They're back in the deadline here right now. There's a more modern work car they bought for an astronomical, huge figure. I'm not sure why they spent all that much money. And they actually prefer to run it around on diesel or rotating tower rather than overhead wiring. The wires are usually on when it's running.
I was hoping to see a 249E come up.
So you can see the curve of the main line. Well, I'm sorry I didn't point that out sooner. But the main line, the Pennsylvania Railroad high-speed line, actually goes around a 90-mile-an-hour turn right over there. Because of that, that line may need to be, is scheduled, is literally scheduled to be replaced by the next generation of Northeast Corridor by going via the airport. All new lines down there. I'm actually involved in commenting on that. Part of my testimony in the Federal Railroad Administration as the Vice President of the Delaware Valley Association of Rail Masters, the largest voice of the riding public, is that when they build a new airport route for the Northeast Corridor for 200-mile-an-hour trains, that they literally build the light rail into the airport to feed any station that they have down there. And
First
we
time
have
I ever did
a
this.
large job generating and a better connection so that people might decide when they build new trolleys for this network that are going to be articulated, low floor. They might actually be several trolleys coupled together with articulation so you can walk through the cars. There'll be plenty of room for luggage, bikes, and other things like that. Now, the airport is just over the hill and down where the 36 trolley line goes. And it used to go all the way both to Hog Island, where the Hoggy sandwich was. You know, I have a Hoggy sandwich, a hoagie sandwich with me, and they were literally made for this for workers to use this line. And then a branch actually turned, and a trolley line went to Chester through the marshes from Leicester by Westinghouse that was down there and along the Industrial Highway. Island Avenue here is probably a Swedish path that went from the mill down to Tinicum Island. So when you say Island Avenue, people automatically assume, and I did, is a shortened version of Hog Island, because the Hog Island trolley went on this line. No, it's actually Tinicum Island Road. Now, one thing that I want to point out to you here, on the left, if you look on the cement, there's a steam engine image there, up on the cement, up high on the bridge. That's one of those 127-mile-an-hour record holders. They actually preserved that locomotive, or actually one like it, that held the record at 127, unofficial record. But they were using it to promote it. That's the only bridge I know of in America that had the pictures of steam locomotives on all four corners of it. Very, very rare. It shows you how important they thought Island Avenue was. And the reason they did was because the Cobb Street Parkway was going to be an expressway. The parkways of New York City, the express roads before they build interstates, well, here is one of them. This is the parkway extension and down, and then it's going to connect over to Passyunk Avenue and into the marshes as that was further developed. Pennsylvania Railroad put its fastest steam locomotives on that bridge, anticipating this becoming a very fast and very important road as early as 1902. We're going to be turning left here at the Bluebell Tavern. You can see one of the 11 trolleys going by. The 11 line, as I said, is the oldest line in the city of Philadelphia, back to the horse car days. It's the Bluebell Tavern.
Before that, it was a house. By a family named Duncanfield. Their son was William Claude Duncanfield. W.C. Fields. This is one of the places where he lived.
One of the places.
He may have been born here. There are 3 other places where he may have been born. We don't know. But while passing by the birthplace of W.C. Fields. Yeah, so did I, yes. The other thing, well, Scott's
Getting a drink of water.
this was also during the Revolutionary War, part of the campaign to clean out Fort Maitland. So they could move the supply ships on the river. There was a part of 2,500 troops under General Boyd Wallace. Last night was dead. There was a 20-minute rally.
This is the old J.G. Grill trolley factory right here. This wall and the whole shopping center is where more trolleys were built than any other place in the world. There's a hope to put a trolley mural on the side of this section of the wall here, where we can paint some of the trolleys that were built here, some of the more famous ones, including down in Chester, where they have a 1916 trolley in storage that was built here, and they're hoping to get it someday somehow. The trolley factory was served by both the Baltimore and Ohio railroaders were going over, which had a station right there, as well as the Pennsylvania Railroad, where you see the electrical poles in the distance, the older ones over there, and that's the main line of the Pennsylvania Railroad, when it was relocated away from the airport in the 1870s to make a better line to Delaware County. There's actually the current plan for Amtrak to possibly relocate 200-mile-an-hour trains to the airport today. I'm actually involved in some of the conversations for that. Now we're coming up on 58th Street. There's a colonial house we just finished on the right. It's kind of hard to see back there. We literally have been where the railroads were and the Baltimore and Ohio, which had a shop complex, 58th Street shop complex in this area, and they dragged it was a wooden house, and they picked it up and moved it across the street. You see the line of row houses back there. It's literally a dirt road by the junkyard goes back into there, but at the end is a separate house, and it's the same size as the Bluebell, the same size as Woodford. And what I found out when I interviewed the people living across the street, they were 90 years old and had done the research and knew. They said it was over here, it was dragged over there. Now, 58th Street is currently being rebuilt along the edge, and that's something, and you see it in both directions on this sidewalk. That's something called the East Coast Greenway Bike Lane, something that's going between Marcham's Garden and Schuylkill River Path, and is going up along here, and is going to go to the Cobb Trail, the Cobb Creek Bike Trail is, and it's going to then cross back at the Bluebell Tavern there, which they're not doing construction at yet, and go down to the Heights Trail. And that's a national bike trail that's crossing this national heritage roadway through here. It's going to eventually be marked, and that both of them are going to help tourism, trolley tours and other versions of, and talk about green aspects as well as the historical aspects. It's a rare treat to see a national bike way coming through this urban neighborhood.
Can we take a picture now? Just hand it to them. Then you don't get my double chin.
We're going to go on Woodland if we can. We just lost the trolley pole here. We're actually getting another extra tour. We're going to go around the Woodland Car Barn.
We dewired.
This is the
We dewired. We
office,
wired.
Room here, as it were, for the original or the later.
Here, turn me down.
Anyway, it had a flyer in it.
Oh wow, you should have that. Isn't that pretty?
From Toronto.
I love
But it
those
is the oldest
paintings.
continuous trolley served car barn. It only does heavy repairs here. It's quite a modern facility.
Families and victims of
Built
something.
with Kawasaki cars and also services these and serves components of other SEPTA
Some more over there, dude.
here by truck and car.
Yeah, I got them.
We're going to go around behind the car barn and then we're going to switch back to the regular line. So we're going to get extra service here. Before Sam goes back to his talk about various burials at the Woodland Cemetery, we enter University City. I don't know why you there. Of course, the Woodland Cemetery, as he said, is a great historic property. It was considered the grandest property in the nation by some people. In colonial times, the grandest estate overlooking the Mill River. It stretched literally from Woodland Avenue up to Market Street. And somebody most of University City down to the river, and it survived as the Woodland Cemetery. Many colonials were entertained there. Oval rooms were developed there that were later copied by the White House. And General Washington, President Washington copied the Oval rooms at the Woodland Cemetery. So that's quite a historic location. We keep losing the trolley cars. Not no longer. Okay. That's the cars.
It's probably going to happen again.
We're going to be pulling around and then turning onto Woodland Avenue again. You'll see Grays Ferry Avenue shooting off to the right, which was the King's Highway, and the original Lower Ferry Bridge, another historic route. But the Woodland Avenue goes before Hamilton Estate as an Indian trail, and then later after the Hamilton Estates will reach for the Revolutionary War to the bridge built at Martin Curie at Woodland Avenue, which was re-established.
Cheers. We're probably going to dewire again. Just throw it out. There's the Comcast van. There's the Comcast van.
I didn't quite get that. I was investigating that. Yes, something like that. Frederick? Frederick does it. Yeah.
I think
Grays
we're going
Ferry,
to
it
the
was
tunnel.
further back. We'd already passed it. That's Grays Ferry Avenue.
I
That
think.
was the lower ferry area and the original way that the King's Highway went. This section of Woodland was an Indian trail and a Swedish trail that was cut off by the wood by the
Well, I'm sure it's outrageous now. At the time, I had
University of City. You see the beautiful architecture that we come up on the Woodlands property here.
Yeah.
best ride we ever had.
4 weeks, 4 nights in the fall. 12,000 Philadelphians died of the Thanksgiving. And she was treating the sailors at the Naval Hospital, and she succumbed to the disease. Now, her brother, the family owned the second largest hardware business, wholesale business brother became sort of famous in the 1960s. Her brother, his name was Alexander Heidel, and he took part of the hardware business, took it to Dallas, Texas. Now, anybody have a clue about A. Heidel? Okay. A. Heidel was Oswald, people on the Oswald's aliens.
Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't.
He used that alias, A. Heidel, to get an Italian business to ship over the right to the President Kennedy in 1863. So, some of her... 1963? Yeah. Okay, so we got the United States Veterans Administration to finally approve and install a marker at Woodland Cemetery over her grave. And that was in 1922. You want to get that's what he said for you.
When you get off the trolley.
Also,
Did you take a picture getting on?
Yeah.
It's the grave of Thomas E. Who?
Is there any time
No.
No.
And I was saying, where's Canada? Should get back on. It's right there. The Confederate Navy.
Oh, okay.
Hijacked. Now, this is significant.
No time at all.
Has anybody ever gone to the airport and tried to get on an airplane? What happens first? You get searched, right? The very first time the U.S. government ordered people to be searched was on ships. And that was a result of this gentleman, Thomas E. Because he tried to hijack and put a crew with him. He tried to hijack the ship. At Panama, and what he was after was the gold shipments that were going up and down the Pacific Coast.
Look at something that sues.
Okay.
Further away, rather than the traditional old neighborhoods, they were able to live in suburban neighborhoods like this was, that didn't have all that much industry that was building. You don't see the large factories at all. And then you can see how the storefronts behind the new signs, the terracotta there, it's very beautiful and all, still trolley oriented, no back alleys quite yet, for cars, later alleys became in, and the houses are still bigger, but when the ticket fare became cheaper and everyone could buy an electric streetcar, further out you see the houses are smaller and all, people could arrive, take the train, later Westchester branch here, the railroad, take that further out and better to move further and further out. This is the King Cecil Rec Field.
I thought you were talking about the
Cecil Rec
Flabber.
Field was actually an old polo ground. They played polo here.
No, I thought you were talking about that ugly Flabber where we went to the crossfade mall. I rode with that woman 3 times.
She's still glad.
What I was told. You also have
This one's
Carnegie Library.
her father's
Here in Victoria on the way down, Carnegie Library High School, built right across the rock.
I don't think it was because I don't think she got done cleaning that fast.
Carnegie Library was actually the last one built in the city, but this being another one, Carnegie being a philanthropist, Pittsburgh, turned his wealth into libraries across the country. The very last one.
Still operating?
Like when you normally go, spread the tracks, put a median in the center, and then turn it down extra wide, and again, there's an extra 10 feet in the width of this street, and you could put a median, and then you can see part over there. Where this section of 60th Street, however, is narrower. The reason the trolley's turning is because we're arriving to the great Mount Moriah Cemetery. Probably the most distressed cemetery in the nation in many ways. One which many of us in the area are trying to help in various different ways, giving tours, cleaning up, lobbying for different things.
We're on King Sessing Avenue now.
Yeadon Borough are establishing a new association replacing the abandoned.
We're getting closer to the loop where we got off.
Where we got on?
No, where we got off when we got on the wrong trolley.
Myself, as I can, and others are trying to keep it in bank, keep the overgrowth.
There's a loop right at the Mount Moriah Cemetery.
Yeah. Sam, I don't know if you have anything else to add. The Mount Moriah, there's a lot of historic people.
I think they're in Irish.
It's the trolley.
Mount Moriah is the trolley side?
Yeah.
The cemetery? No.
What about the change? He got into the weather. Oh, well, it was really good. You like the weather. Well, that was the, I mean, I know you're not a great Harvey Pitcher fan. He was easy to take. Next Saturday, 1 o'clock, the cemetery is open, and we're going to have a final event of the year. We're going to clean up for the early part of the day, and then the last half of the day, we're going to have duck tours and have the now, the cemetery exists in 2 counties, Delaware County and Philadelphia County. And as you can see, in a lot of this tree line, it's not a secret part. It's the actual cemetery.
I already did. Yeah, that loop right there. Yeah. I did.
A little brick building inside the telephone.
No, we're running late.
That's the loop where we got off.
If I could jump in for just a moment, there's some very other significant things about this. This was actually the foundation for another gatehouse in Gettysburg. In Gettysburg, it had a tower larger. You see the trolley loop going in here and the gate right next to it? The original was a horse cart across Cemetery Avenue, and that gatehouse was built specifically at this corner for the horse car service. They may have, I am told, they did this. We don't know the story in here. Actually built temporary trolley tracks up into the cemeteries for very specific, well-to-do burials. Mostly, of course, they bring a regular trolley car, where you rent a regular car, stick the casket in the window, into the seats, and the rest of the family will ride. I've actually talked with people who they rode in one as a child like that. And it's an Irish family. They say they stopped at every bar along Woodland Avenue. The trolley dropped them off, and went around. Some people stayed on the trolley and going to bars, and then picked them up, took them all the way to South Philadelphia. So some great stories. That, and PTC actually had a PR team, had a OcTrolley car. He does not yet have a picture of it here. We do hope to find a picture of it servicing. And the car specifically had a side compartment where you could load it in, and then it was very dignified car, and you could drive in there.
There's one thing you might say.
Well, we'd like to see that. Yeah, we have to count one of the shepherd.
It's not here, but there's a picture on there.